Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Islamic Economics series.
So let's just jump right in. How does a brand new academic field actually get taken seriously? How does it gain legitimacy? It's not just about having some brilliant ideas, right? It's way more than that. It's almost like a strategic campaign. And that's what we're going to dig into today, a framework that looks at this whole process, especially for Islamic economics, as a kind of social movement. All right, so here's the plan. First, we'll lay out the big challenge. Then we'll get into this really powerful framework for growth. And from there, we'll uncover 3 specific, concrete research areas that could totally shape the future of Islamic economics. Let's dive in. Okay, so first things first. Let's talk about the big challenge here. Think about it. Every new field, whether it's behavioral economics or quantum computing, has to literally fight for its place. It's got to earn its seat at the academic table. And Islamic economics, it's no different. The main goal, the absolute core mission, is to build that solid, rigorous academic legitimacy. This whole journey, at least in its modern form, really kicked off back in 1976. That's when Islamic economics was officially declared a new discipline. But a declaration is one thing, it's just the starting line. For decades, scholars have been putting in the work, building its scientific foundation brick by brick. And then something interesting happened in 2008. A theory came out from a totally different field that gave us this incredible new way to look at and maybe even speed up this exact process. So what is this tool? Let's break it down. It's a framework specifically designed to analyze how a new field grows and gets accepted. It's called the Admittance-Seeking Social Movement theory, which is a mouthful, so we'll just call it ASSM theory for short. Now, this theory, which comes from Hambrick and Chen, makes a pretty bold claim. It says that the growth of an academic field, it isn't some quiet, slow, intellectual process. Nope, it's a social campaign. It's active. Think of it less like a quiet library and more like a full-on movement, with leaders, strategies, and a very clear goal to win a permanent seat at that academic table. And this campaign, this movement, really stands on 3 key pillars. The first one is differentiation. You have to prove that you're bringing something new to the table, something that other fields just can't solve. The second is mobilization. This is about getting your people together, organizing the scholarly community, creating journals, building the infrastructure. And the third pillar is legitimacy building. This is where you convince everyone else that you're for real, both by showing how you're unique, but also by kind of playing the game, adopting the successful habits of already established fields. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Before just taking this framework and applying it to Islamic economics, the researchers did something pretty clever. They decided to test the framework on itself. They did this deep dive to see how the ASSM theory itself has evolved and spread, to check if it's actually a solid tool for this kind of analysis. So how'd they do that? They used a method called bibliometric analysis. Basically, they treated academic citations like a digital breadcrumb trail. They looked at 164 different papers published over 12 years that all cited that original ASM paper. And by doing this, they could create a map showing exactly who was using the theory and where it was spreading. And what they found was pretty revealing. You can see from the data, it's not a perfectly straight line up. There are some bumps, but the overall trend, it's clearly going up. The theory is gaining influence. And what's really crucial here is that it started breaking out of its original field, management, and started showing up in places like engineering and computer science. When a theory starts crossing disciplines like that, you've got something powerful on your hands. Okay, so all of that groundwork brings us to the real heart of this paper. Based on this whole analysis, the research points to 3 very clear, super high potential research frontiers specifically for scholars in Islamic economics. Frontier number 1 is all about the fundamentals. It's a call to rigorously assess the status of Islamic economics as a scientific discipline. And the cool part is, we now have a clear, objective benchmark to do it, those 3 criteria from the ASM theory. The whole point here is to move past just debating about it and get down to the hard evidence. We're talking about systematically mapping out the proof. Where exactly is Islamic economics different? How have scholars and institutions been mobilized? And what are the actual measurable results of all the efforts to build legitimacy? It's all about building a solid, evidence-based case for the discipline. No more hand-waving. All right, frontier number 2. This one is more about looking inward. It's about using those same quantitative tools, like bibliometrics, to create a map of the intellectual structure of Islamic economics itself.
Yeah, think of it like creating a super detailed satellite map of the entire field. With this kind of analysis, you can pinpoint who the major thinkers are, what the core ideas are, and this is the exciting part, you can see the blank spots on the map. You can find those unexplored areas like in Islamic social finance or microfinance that are just waiting for the next big breakthrough.
And now for the third frontier, which is definitely the most ambitious one. The idea here is to go beyond just using someone else's theory and to actually create a new one. It's about building a unique model that explains the rise of Islamic economics as its own distinct social and academic movement.
So this table here, it really lays out the whole progression beautifully. You see how the questions evolve? We start with the foundational stuff. Hey, is this even a discipline? Then we move to deep analysis and mapping. And finally, we get to the highest level, true theoretical innovation, building a model for the movement itself. It's a perfect path from just validating the field to actually creating new knowledge within it. All right, let's bring it all home. In our final section, we'll see how all of this culminates in a pretty significant call to action for anyone doing research in this space.
And this is really the ultimate takeaway. Because Islamic economics is built on such unique foundations. I mean, it has a different worldview, a different theory of knowledge, a distinct methodology. The goal shouldn't be to just copy-paste the ASSM framework. The real opportunity here is to take that framework, adapt it, and build a new, customized version that's perfectly tailored to the unique context and values of Islamic economics.
So at the end of the day, this framework is so much more than just a theory. It's a strategic roadmap. It's a way to build a field with purpose, with intention, and backed by solid evidence. The question it leaves for every researcher isn't just, what should I study next? It's a much bigger question. Which of these three frontiers am I going to help conquer? See you in the next one. Subscribe, like, and comment.